welcome to episode 61 of Coffee and Co-Read, your source for all things literary with Catherine.
And Kristen, where we believe there's nothing better than a hot coffee and an awesome book. Join us for our virtual book club where we take one book a month and dive into all the drama, adventure, and romance we can find. Hi, Catherine.
Hey, Kristen.
So we're finishing another book this week.
Yeah, it flew by.
It did flow. Whoa. Flow. Oh my God, English. It did fly by. But as always, before we get to that, we're going to do another Would You Rather.
Yeah.
So this week, our Would You Rather is, would you rather want every single book that you ever read again be based on love triangles? Or never be able to read a romance again?
This one's easy, if not infuriating. Because obviously, I want romance in my books. Like, yes. I'm not gonna never read romance again. Like, I know I do go from, like, no romance at all to lots of romance, and, like, I'm all over the place with that, but I do definitely want to be able to read romance, so I'll say fuck it and take a love triangle. But, like, it can't be the main plot. There has to be some other plot in the book too, or I'll just give up reading. Which is sad.
Yeah. I feel like though most romance books, like not all, there's actually a whole genre of books that are just romance, but the books that we tend to like are romance and something else anyway.
Yes.
So I feel like we could get away with those as long as there's a love triangle.
Yeah. And a lot of them have love triangles.
Yeah.
It's just we don't care about the triangle. So...
Well, it's funny. When I started Throne of Glass, I thought that was going to be a love triangle.
I know. And it does. The first two are. Really.
Sort of, yeah. Ish. But yeah, I would tend to agree. Like, if I have to read a love triangle, I will. I don't actually mind love triangles when they're done well. Mm-hmm. But, like, I think one of the first love triangle-y books I read was the Twilight books.
Oh yeah, they didn't even come to my head, but yeah.
And I just like, I can't if they're all gonna be like that.
Yeah, but I think that's Twilight.
Yeah.
Which I love anyway, but
I know, like, I don't know if I would be able to read them now without being a bit more critical.
Oh, of course.
But I remember reading them when we were, like, late teens, early 20s, whenever they first came out. And I loved them. Yeah,
me too. I got the first one for my 16th birthday, along with a key to my parents' car. So.
Aww. That's so nice.
And I finished it, and there were no other books in the series. And the way the first one finishes, I was like, oh, that's the end.
Yeah.
And I was like, I liked this book. Good standalone.
Yeah.
Then everything went to hell, and apparently there's going to be more of them in our future.
What?
Yeah, apparently she's writing. Yeah. So I don't know anything about it. I've just heard secondhand from people on like podcasts, book podcasts, or like on Instagram and shit. But I've heard she's writing 2 more books possibly, and one of them is going to be about Renesmee and Jacob, which makes me want to die. So,
but I feel like the issue with that is enough time has passed canonically in the book where she is a grown-up now, and it's okay in quotation marks.
But if you'll remember the last book of Twilight, she grows faster than a normal child. Yes. So yeah. I need her to be actually year standard, at least in her 20s. But not just maturity wise in her 20s. I need her to actually be in her 20s.
No, but that's what I mean. I feel like enough time has passed canonically, like in real life years, where she would potentially be, oh god, I hope friggin' 18. Like, I friggin' hope she's 18. Wait, just
in the books, if they, well, yeah, maybe we should actually look up, because I'm literally just spewing bullshit that I don't know is true.
So it came out in 2008. So if she was born in 2008, 18, 19, 20, 22. Nope, that would make her 15?
Yeah.
15.
And, like, so, I get that she develops faster, but I need her. Yeah, I still need her to be of legal age based on her birth year for her to be in that large of an age gap relationship. I would like her to be in her late 20s at best. But then how old would he be? Because he's like 16 in the last book. So
yeah, but remember, as long as he shifts, he can delay aging.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, because like if we waited until she was, say, 20 at the very minimum, and he'd only be 36, that's not awful. For an age gap, it's not awful, but I don't know. I just, ugh.
All I can find is that she's releasing 2 more novels, but they weren't going to be based on Edward. Like, she wasn't doing any more of the Midnight Sun sort of.
Yeah, they're not from his point of view. Yeah, so maybe people are just speculating. But anyway, we got off track. Yes. I thought you were going to talk about the Hunger Games love triangle when you just brought up love triangles.
Listen, to me, that was almost a I don't consider Hunger Games a love triangle.
Okay.
At all. And I'll tell you why. Because in my mind, Gale was never, like, I know ship-wise and fandom-wise, yes, there's she should have chosen Gale, and oh no, Peeta all the way. Like, there's Team Gale, Team Peeta. Mm-hmm. I get it. But when you read the books, one, Gale doesn't really make a move until book 2, and it is a single solitary move. Mm-hmm. And she's just sort of shocked at that point, like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah.
And then she's back in the games with Peeta, and then she's like, I need you, and then she's all consumed with getting him back, and then, like, just in my mind, Gale was never a contender.
Yeah.
In terms of best friend, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I don't think she ever really went there feels-wise with Gale.
Yeah, I think she had, like, a childhood crush on him in the beginning, but, like, it was just, like, a friend she had a crush on, and then she was shoved into this world, and everything changed, and she was like, I don't want to deal with any of this shit anymore. And obviously she was forced to, so... Yeah, I do think a lot of, like, team of either side of that one, but I agree. There wasn't really...
wasn't enough development in a Gale-Katniss relationship for me to consider that a triangle.
Yeah. What other books have, like, crazy fandoms that are divided? Like... The only 2 I can think of are Twilight, where it's like Team Jacob, Team Edward. When you first read them, and you read them while they were coming out, didn't you? You didn't?
Yeah, I did. Yes, yeah.
Were you?
I think actually when I started reading them, you might have gotten them before me, because I remember Twilight and New Moon were both out when I read them.
Do you remember if you were team or team?
Oh, I was Team Edward.
100%. There was no other like.
I liked Jacob as a character. Like, I did like him. I didn't have anything against him. I wasn't, like, anti-Jacob. Yeah. But I was more Edward with Bella.
Yeah. Well, it just didn't make sense. She was so head over heels for him. How was she just going to forget that?
Yeah.
So.
Anyway. So we got way off topic, but I think we can both safely say that we would rather read exclusively love triangles, or maybe even a love square, throw in a love, like, hexagon, I don't know.
I'm here for it.
But yeah, so I'd rather a triangle than no romance at all.
Same.
Okay, so we're gonna get into it. Last week from Blood and Ash, heads up. We are not a spoiler-free zone, and things might get saucy, especially in this episode.
Yeah, really, though. And this week we're doing chapters 33 to 41, which is the end of From Blood and Ash, like you just said. Last week we ended on the cliffhanger of all cliffhangers, after traveling to New Haven through the Blood Forest and being attacked by Craven, and having her gift found out by Hawke, Poppy decides that she wants more from life in the form of sex.
Woo!
And she asks Hawke to stay the night with her. So, after she said that, we get right into exactly where we left off, which is ideal. But Hawke says that he wants to stay, but he wonders if she realizes what will happen if he does. Which, she knows. She knows you're gonna have sex. I don't know why. Oh, God.
Oh, God.
Sorry, this part just makes me laugh. But he tells her that he's unworthy of her, and it won't just be his fingers inside of her. And she won't rock. This part I actually love, because it's so much. But she won't walk out of this room a maiden if he stays.
But,
I love the maiden jokes. I'm never gonna get over them.
I love that it has dual meaning. Right?
And, like, Tawny made a maiden joke last week, and I just am a big fan of them. I find them very funny.
Yeah.
So Poppy has decided she's going to reclaim her life, and she kind of thinks, like, this isn't just about Hawke. Like, she started this process when she learned how to fight with Victor, and by killing the cursed with Victor again, and killing Craven, like, when she snuck out 2 weeks ago. So it isn't just Hawke. She's taking so many little steps to make up this rebellion. It isn't just him. And she kind of says, like, Hawke wasn't the catalyst. He's the reward. Which is just like, I feel like both of them are thinking of the other person as not a person. Like, they're looking at each other as, like, she sees him as a reward, and he doesn't really see her as just the maiden, because we've talked about that a lot. But he does see her, like, on a pedestal.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, and to be fair, I feel like as of right now, yes, there are feelings. I'm not saying that there are no feelings involved whatsoever. But it seems like both of them, it's more lust than feelings at this point.
Yeah.
Like, not saying there's no respect on either side, not saying blah, blah, blah. But at this point, it seems like both of them are like, ooh, sex.
Yeah. And, like, if I were in her situation, I would definitely have sex with him. But I also wouldn't be a virgin or going in front of the gods. So there's a lot more on her side that she's sacrificing here.
Yeah.
Even though I do hate the trope of sacrificing virginity being a thing. So,
yeah.
But it's different because she's chosen, I guess. Ugh, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. And, like, while I appreciate that she's like, oh, you know, I've taken so many steps in my rebellion, Hawke didn't start me rebelling and blah, blah, blah. However, he, I feel like, was instrumental in her realizing how crappy her situation was and how much she doesn't want it.
Yes, definitely.
Right? Because, like, She literally takes all of his reasons. So remember last week when I read out the little argument she gave to Victor,
mm-hmm.
a lot of the reasons she gave him were like verbatim what Hawke gave to her and said, your life sucks. Like all these things you have to work for and blah, blah, blah. She just like spits them back to Victor and is like, yeah, my life sucks. So while I think she did rebel a little bit in her own way.
Mm-hmm.
I do think Hawke was instrumental in her realizing, I don't really want to be the maiden. Like,
yeah.
This blows.
Yeah, realizing that she had a choice. Even though she still doesn't really in her head.
No.
Like, she kind of gets into it a bit later, which we'll get to, but... Yeah. Anyway, so back to the sex.
Love it.
Yes. She just takes her robe off because he's hesitating, and she just stands there naked in front of him. And I'm like, that's fucking baller.
It's very bold for a virgin, but at the same time, she's been abused, like, topless by the Duke and Lord Mazine for, like, ages. So she probably just has no humility over her nakedness anymore.
Yeah, which is fair, but I would find that hard to do if I were in her situation with a new person.
I find that hard to do now.
Yeah,
well, I don't. I don't, actually. Who are we kidding? I don't at all. My husband and I have been together for like 16 years. But like, I imagine it would be hard.
Yeah, with a new person.
Yeah.
What if you just walked out?
If it was someone new, I'd be like, I'm keeping my clothes on.
Yeah, lights off and then clothes off.
Lights off, clothes on.
Yeah. That's how we like to fuck. But yeah, I was just like, damn, girl.
Yeah, bold.
And she also has scars, which, like, we've kind of heard about them a bit, but she does say that, like, apparently there are craven bite scars on her legs. So that means that, I guess, when her parents died, she was bitten by craven, but she didn't turn. So, like, this is a big deal. Because anyone that's bitten by craven is then cursed and then turns. So, like, I get this is
she didn't.
Yeah. So this is a part of why she's chosen, but also letting people know that is probably scary because, like, if somebody sees a craven bite on you, they think you're going to turn. So
yeah,
it's showing him a lot other than just her naked body. It's more vulnerability than just being naked in front of a new person. But it also just doesn't, like, they don't talk about it. They don't talk about her bite marks at all. No, I don't think they do.
But I also feel like, because didn't Hawke say that Victor told him about her scars? So maybe he told him about those too? Possibly,
but it should really have clicked in Hawke's head that there was something more to her, before now. And I think he even says that later in this book. Or that might be the next book. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
We'll get to it when we get to it. But he's probably not looking at her legs other than their shapeliness.
And the apex of her thighs.
Ooh. Because he tells her she's beautiful. And he moves faster than she thinks possible to get to her. Which is like, maybe that's a clue.
Yeah, like, clue in that he is obviously not just, like, human.
Yes.
Sorry, spoiler alert.
We get it this week, so it's barely a spoiler. So we're obviously in her head, but she says he kisses her like she's being devoured. And when he takes his clothes off too, he's so beautiful. And he does have scars as well. And that kind of helps Poppy. And she says she can see one on his thigh that looks like a brand. And when she asks about it, he says he got it many years ago when he was dumb enough to get caught. And she kind of thinks that, like, he talks like he's way older than he is, because he looks like he's, I guess, in his 20s.
Which she mentioned before.
Yeah. So, like, how could he have gotten it many years ago? Like, was he just a wee baby?
But also, why would you ask about that when you're, like, in the middle of, like, getting busy with, like...
Yeah, maybe she's
like,
nervous.
you're, like, making out, and then all of a sudden you, like, show your naked body, and you're like, where'd you get that one?
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it's mostly because she's so self-conscious of her scars that she's just happy he has some, and she's not, like, an anomaly. Which I find that so funny. Like, I don't know about anybody else, but, like, I have hundreds of scars. Like, I don't know if that's weird. I just, like... I don't know. Like, I have chickenpox scars on my face. I have cat claw mark scars. I have burnt scars from working at a coffee shop or from my oven in my house because I'm clumsy. Like, I have so many scars everywhere. I have surgery scars. I have everything. And, like, when people are like, I find it especially in books, they're like, oh, where did you get that scar? I'm like, doesn't everybody have many scars? Is that not a thing?
I'll be honest with you, I maybe have two. Like, I don't have many scars. No.
Dude, like, I have on my wrist, these 3 lines are from my cat scratching. I'm gonna get one of his paw prints next to it or something. But, like, I have so many scars. It is unreal.
I mean, like, I will tell you, so when I say I have, like, 2 scars, I have, like, one from an actual injury, and then I have a whole bunch from, like, stretch marks, I guess, from giving birth. So I don't know if you count those. But that's really it. Like...
Yeah, I have stretch marks from being alive. Like, I got stretch marks on my legs when I was a teenager, so, like, I have had them forever. But, like, I don't even count those. But that's, like, on my hands alone.
No, I'm looking at my hands. I got none.
I have, like, probably 15 or 20 just on my hands. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'm just really clumsy, and I know I am. That is a thing as well. But I didn't realize that scars were that uncommon.
I'm surprised to hear you have that many, because I thought I was clumsier than you are.
No, I guess not.
I guess not.
Well, also, my skin is just very sensitive and likes to protest.
That is real, though, for on your end. You are allergic to everything skin-wise.
So I guess that's probably why I scar so easily, is just my body hates me. But anyway, not the point. I just always find it so funny when people are like, oh my god, you have one scar. And I'm like, shit. But apparently it's not as common to have hundreds of scars like me. Fine.
You and Hawke would get along great.
We would. I would ask him all about his scars. Oh my god. So back to sexy times, but not quite yet. Luckily, Hawke takes birth control, so there's no possibility.
Love this, by the way, I love. I do too. I'm taking the birth control.
Yeah. Well, like, and she wouldn't be allowed to take birth control, obviously. So it is convenient.
Not even to, like, control her cycle.
Yeah. No. But, like, can you imagine if the maiden went to go see the gods and she was pregnant? It would be hilarious.
Yeah, I'd love it.
So, I love sex scenes.
You just don't like talking about them.
I know. Oh, God. So, he starts to finger her without her pants this time. And she says he worships her scars, which is...
How?
He, like, kisses them and appreciates them, I guess.
Just stop. Just stop. You don't have to go any further with that.
And then he goes down on her. And after she comes, he says that she tastes like honeydew. I can't. Like... No one tastes like honeydew. I'm just gonna say it. It's not what vaginas taste like. Like, I'm not saying they taste bad, because they don't. I'm just saying they don't taste like honeydew. And that is a hill that I'm willing to die on.
Yeah.
I think it's not good to write things like this because it can make people feel self-conscious about themselves and what they may taste or smell like, which is already such a big issue in our society. I think that I just don't like this specifically, but I do know that, like, because of this, honeydew is like a big thing in the fandom. Like, God. But yeah, it's not my jam. I don't like when it's brought up because it can make people feel self-conscious, especially if someone younger is reading a book like this. I don't think it's necessary.
Well, I mean, I feel like they do similar things with semen, though. Like, not to the same extent, but, like, the way they describe semen when, like, a girl, like, drinks it is, like, swallows it, whatever. She's not drinking it from a glass.
Unless that's what you're into.
Unless that's what you're into. But, like, they describe it as, like, salty, but, like, it's not.
No.
I can't, like, and again, if you like it and you're into it, more power to you. But, like, I don't think most of us would say that it tastes good.
No. I also just put it down the hatch. I don't think about it. I'm not there, like, tasting it like an exquisite wine.
I know you're not. God. But, yeah, I'm just trying to say that, like, they do it on both sides.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like,
but it's generally women reading books like this. And I know that it's not always, for sure. But the main audience is women. And I just feel like a female writer shouldn't perpetuate stereotypes about taste and smell.
My issue is that maybe they shouldn't just... I don't know how you're gonna be accurate and also make it desirable.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
You know what I mean? Like, if you were to really talk about how it really tasted and really smelled, like, not that it smells or tastes bad, but, like, if an author was like, okay, I don't want to do this thing where they say that it smells like watermelon or tastes like watermelon sugar or whatever that shit is. I don't want to do that, so I'm gonna be real. And, like, how would you really describe it in a way that was alluring? Because, like, you don't want people to be like, ugh, in the middle of a sex scene in a book.
Yeah, but that's what this makes me do.
Now, this also... But for a different this makes you cringe for a different reason, not because you think it's disgusting. You're doing it for the social construct of it.
But I'm also like, now I don't want to,
like,
I don't want to eat watermelon right now. Watermelon, not watermelon, honeydew. Not actually, but...
I don't like it anyway, so for me it's like a non-issue.
We just buy it for the chickens. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I would want it described. I don't mind when they're like, you taste delicious. Because, like, that's more like, I love you, you enjoy this, so I love doing this.
Yeah.
Anyway, besides the point, but just stuck on it for a second. Several seconds. So then he asks her to touch him, and she is a virgin who's
Very
never
innocent.
seen a dick. But she did read some naughty book the Miss Willow's diary that told her all about it. And she's glad for that because she just starts at his face, makes her way down his body, stopping everywhere to get a good look. And she, just with her hands actually, so she's not even, I assume she's looking. But she does just, I guess, give him a good old HJ, and he seems to enjoy it. Then he asks her if she's ready, and she nods, but he says he wants her to say it, which I appreciate. I'm here for enthusiastic consent, especially if you're a virgin. He does tell her it might hurt, and she does feel a sharp sting, and they, like, stop for a second, let her adjust, the normal shit. And then she actually starts moving on him, first, which I appreciate. But, like, very quickly, all the pain is gone, and she's, like, having amazing sex and having an orgasm. I think he does have to touch her clit for her to orgasm. Yeah. He rubs her clit and she orgasms again, and it's like much more intense.
Love it.
Which, like, I'm here for it. Like,
yeah. I like that they include that actually, because so many times virgins are all over the place orgasming willy-nilly from penetrative sex, which is not realistic.
Especially,
maybe it is if that's your truth, but like,
well, I just mean, like, for a virgin, like, it's not going to be super comfortable, even if it's just like just hurts at the beginning. It's still, it's
a new, and like, guaranteed he's got a huge dick because
he's the main character in a romance story.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So she is thinking in her head that she doesn't feel any guilt. She thinks she was destined for this, and that she may not be worthy in the God's eyes, but she's worthy of happiness and joy and feeling good. So she's having, like, an epiphany here. Which sex is a great time to have epiphanies. And so yeah, she like wraps her legs around him and everything. Like, she's all about instinct, I guess. Or, like, maybe she read the book and she's like, this is what Mrs. Willa,
this is what Willa told me to do.
You know, maybe that's why. But then, so she comes and then he comes, not at the same time, which I also appreciate. And he asks her to promise not to forget this. And she's like, how could I forget the first time having sex? What the fuck? But he says, no matter what happens tomorrow or the next day, not to forget that this is real. So, yes.
That's an interesting thing to ask someone to promise. I wonder what's happening. I wonder
if she'll immediately forget it for some reason. So they fall asleep in each other's arms then, and somebody at the door wakes them up, and Hawke goes to answer it, and he basically has to go handle something, so he tells Poppy he'll be back, and she goes back to sleep. Later on, when she wakes up again, she knows that, like, whoever came to the door saw that Hawke was shirtless and in her room, so, like, they obviously know that they spent the night together. And since this is, like, a castle, I guess, with Ascended allegedly in it, it's eventually going to reach the capital and the queen that she had sex. And obviously the gods know too, because they're the gods.
Because they're gods.
So, like, everybody's going to know. So it's not great. She is a bit afraid, but she's also determined not to go to the capital and become an Ascended. Like, she knows her mom didn't ascend, so maybe she can also ask for the queen's favor and not ascend. She wants to basically, like, live her life and have choices and use her gift. And she knows, like, to do that, like, she either needs to convince the queen, like I just said, or she can run away. Those are her only real options. So this is kind of what she's thinking of. And she thinks, like, she wants to talk to Hawke to kind of, like, get his opinion on what she should do. Because he's obviously very important to her. After, or while she's thinking of this maybe, but basically, one of the guards that traveled with her, named Phillips, I think it is, comes to her door, and he kind of like forces himself inside without giving her a choice, and he tells her that something isn't right here. He tells her there are no ascendeds, and he's also very weary of Kieran, and like he wonders where he even came from, because he wasn't part of like the Rise guards before, so he doesn't trust him. Right. Poppy says she doesn't really know any of them, which is true. Like, she doesn't know any of the guards except for Hawke. She met them all, basically. Not met, because the
day of.
She had met two of them, and I think Phillips is one of the ones that she played cards with, but like they didn't realize it was her, so it's not the same. But realistically, she doesn't know a lot of them. So she also obviously trusts Hawke because he not only does she trust him with her body, but he was her guard for like a little while. So she does trust him, and if he trusts Kieran, then she does too. So she kind of doesn't really know what to say to Phillips. And he's very adamant that like this is a trap, like we need to leave. And he tells her that two of her guards are missing.
And he keeps calling her maiden too, right? Like he is respectful that way. Like he's, you know.
So Poppy's like, this doesn't really make any sense. The only thing that can make sense in her brain right now is that Phillips must be a dissenter. And he wants to get her alone. So she knows that she needs to like get around people so that she can get help. So she agrees to leave her room with Phillips, and like he says that some of her guards are getting horses ready for them. But as soon as they like get out of the room, Kieran is leaving his room too. It's just like unfortunate timing, or fortunate, we'll see. But like they literally like sneak out of the room, and then Kieran's coming out of his room next door, and he's like, "Where are you going? What's going on?" And Phillips grabs Poppy and like basically uses her as a shield while he takes his sword and stabs Kieran. And Kieran does move out of the way, so it isn't a killing blow, which is good. But Kieran makes a noise that Poppy recognizes from like the man that attacked her in the garden. It's a very inhuman growl. And while they're watching, Kieran starts to change. And it only takes a few seconds, but then like he's a wolf in front of them. So Poppy realizes like he's a wolven who were thought to be extinct. She still very much believes in Hawke and trusts Hawke, but she knows that Kieran's a wolven and he's likely in league with the Dark One. So it's just funny later on. So they start to run from Kieran, Poppy and Phillips. And he howls, and then they hear even more howling, which means there are more wolven around. And Poppy knows that like she can kill them with Bloodstone Dagger, same as Craven. It would have to be like through the heart or the skull. So,
which is hard because wolven are like extra strong, extra fast,
and I picture
like,
them extra killy. I picture them like werewolves, and like in their wolf form, I do picture them on all fours running.
And very large.
Yeah, so I feel like it'd also be hard to get to their heart too, because like if a human's standing in front of you, their heart is in front of you, but a wolf lying down, their spine is probably in the way. You can't just stab through their back unless you have a very long sword. I don't know how anatomy works. Anyway, So it just sounds difficult, but I guess it gives her some comfort to know that she, like, could kill it if she could.
Wanted to?
If she got a chance to. She has the ability to kill it, technically. Or the knowledge to kill it, technically.
Maybe not
physically. Yeah. But I don't even know. Maybe she's trained for this. Who knows what Victor's trained her to do? We didn't really get a whole lot into it, other than that she knows how to train herself. Anyway.
True.
Poppy is still thinking, like, she refuses to leave without Hawke, because, like, obviously he has no idea any of this is happening, and she knows that, like, she needs to find him before they leave. So they get to the stables, and they shut the doors. And Kieran is just, like, slamming into the door as a wolf. And they realize that they're going to have to leave, like, the back door, through the back door. But, like, the horses aren't going to fit through the back door, so they're going to go on foot. And I'm like, this is the dumbest plan. You think a wolven isn't going to run you down if you try to outrun it in the woods? And literally,
all they would have to do is go circle around the barn. And it's like, oh, found you!
Right? Like, it just doesn't...
Terrible game of hide and seek.
Yeah. Poppy then asks any of the, like, guards that are there waiting if they've seen Hawke, and a man from the shadows says that he has. And Poppy recognizes him as the guy who killed Rylan. So that's not good, because he was a piece of work.
Yeah.
So this guy is actually missing a hand, which wasn't the case when she last saw him. And he tells her that he's about to make good on his promises, which were, like, to bathe in her blood and eat her entrails. Which is, like, cool. Good for you.
Love it.
Right? Phillips and the other two guards, like, try to protect her, but she tells them, like, this guy's a wolven. Because he made the same noise basically as Kieran did before he changed. And Phillips says the wolven are ungodly, but he answers that they are created in the God's image, which I just thought was, like, an interesting sidebar that I don't know if it ever comes up again, but I just thought that, like, probably good to mention. Sorry.
I think it comes up in future books.
Yeah, I'm assuming it does. I don't know if I got far enough into them to get it. So, the door then splinters open, and it's Hawke, and he's carrying a bow with bolts in it, and
like a crossbow.
Yeah, I guess so. Makes sense.
Love a good crossbow.
Exactly. And Phillips gets between them because he doesn't trust Hawke. And Poppy asks Hawke to kill the guy that killed Rylan. His name is apparently Jericho. But then, like, a giant wolven, who is Kieran, starts to, like, walk up behind Hawke. And Poppy is worried that Kieran's gonna kill Hawke. Mm-hmm. But Hawke tells her it's okay, and then he shoots Phillips with the crossbow.
What a twist!
Such twist! Delano, who is one of the guards from the beginning, not the beginning, but from last week when they first got to New Haven, shows up, and he kills one of the other guards that is with Poppy, and then Kieran kills the last one. I just think this is very violent. I guess they did need to kill them all, but it just seems a bit much, especially right in front of Poppy. Like,
yeah, and it's sort of like, I don't know, like, I feel bad for those guys, because
it's not
and maybe
their
they
fault.
were chosen. No, and maybe they were chosen for the party, like the escort party, for a reason.
Yeah.
But they don't seem like terrible guys, and like this guy actually was trying to protect Poppy, mm-hmm. and literally their only crime is that they are guards for a country that maybe isn't the greatest. Like, they serve the Ascended, who maybe aren't actually, like, as cool as they appear. Like, I don't know. I feel like they should have been given a choice, or like locked in cells, or something other than, hey, murder.
Yeah. And especially like in front of her, it very much makes Hawke and Kieran and the other one the bad guys.
Yeah.
So Poppy then reaches out to Hawke with her gift just to see what she can feel, and she feels nothing. So he's somehow blocking her ability, which is interesting. And then Jericho asks Hawke if he can kill her now, but Hawke says if he touches her, he'll lose more than a hand this time. And Hawke says that they need her alive. So what does that mean? Also, kind of implies that Hawke cut off his hand.
Right.
So Kieran shifts back to human, and apparently like his wound is barely a mark anymore. And Hawke tells them that this mess needs to be cleaned up. Which is like...
all of these people that are now dead. Like, could you be a bit more callous?
Right? And then he tells Poppy that they need to talk. And she asks where her other guards are. And he just says dead. I just think that all of the miscommunications that happen in this scene are Hawke's fault for being a fucking jackass. Like, just...
yeah. He definitely could have been a little bit more tactful.
Yes. Easily. But I guess he also doesn't want to show any emotion in front of his men or something. Anyway, it's just, it annoys me a bit. But Hawke does try to get Poppy to leave and talk to him, but she asks him what's going on, and she looks around, and that's when it like all finally clicks, and she realizes that Phillips was right. And these are the actual dissenters, and they are working for the Dark One. And Hawke then tells her that like the only reason he went to Macedonia was for her, like to get close to her and to get her. And he's the reason that Rylan is dead, because he had to make an opening to get like closer to her. And
which is, man, the only thing that I'm sort of like, dude, did you have to, like,
yeah,
for being the good, like, we're gonna find out now in a sec that like he's still technically the good guy. Like, they're the good guys in this situation, yet you're like killing innocent people. Is just sort of like,
well, like those 5 guards that just died, and then plus Rylan, and then in a second like the guard she had before. So yeah, it's a lot. But Hawke does tell her that she'd be surprised how many people near her want Atlantia to be restored. And she realizes, like, it's probably Captain Jansen. He's probably the dissenter. And she's correct. She also realizes that Hawke knew it was her at the Red Pearl. So he must have been planning this for a long time. And then she realizes, like, her guard before Rylan, Hannes, who died of a heart ailment, was also likely killed by them, and they confirm that he was basically killed by poison that was in his ale at the Red Pearl. So she's like, he killed that guard too.
Yeah.
And then obviously Poppy's next thought is about Victor. She asks Hawke if he knew about the attack the night of the rite, and like, was Victor's death on purpose, basically? Like, were you trying to get rid of him too? And Hawke can kind of tell that she's starting to actually get very angry, and she's starting to shake with how angry she is. And she throws a dagger at his heart. And
love it.
Right? He sidesteps it, and she knew that he would, because he's quick like that, and she's already thrown a dagger at his face before. But she just wanted a distraction, so she grabs a sword that I guess was one of her guards, and she swings it at Jericho and ends up cutting him. And then someone, right? He's an asshole. Someone grabs her from behind and smashes her head and she smashes her head into his face and gets out of his hold. And like, when I read it, I got that she, like, stabbed him. So did she just kill a guy? Because I think she just killed this guy, and I don't think it's ever brought up again.
But was it a regular guy, or was it another Wolven guy?
Oh, I don't know.
Because if it was another Wolven, then he's probably not dead.
Yeah. It just never, I don't know if it ever really comes up. Because I listened to the book, and I was like, wait, did she just kill a guy? And then I read that part in the book, and I was like, wait, did she just kill a guy? So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think she just killed a guy.
Love it.
Anyway, and she looks at him and she thinks that he's not much older than her, but that could mean anything. So then Hawke comes up behind her and says she's so incredibly violent it turns him on. I'm like, did she just kill a guy? And he said this.
But like, he is quite perverse. Like,
yes,
he is abnormal in his likes and dislikes, and he is a violent dude. Like,
yeah,
he's super violent, so I guess takes all kinds.
Yep. He takes the sword from her, but she ends up like hitting him with her elbow and starts to run again. Hawke grabs her around the waist and she's like about to fall on her face, but he turns her so that she like lands on top of him. And of course, so she like moves and ends up straddling him, which he like makes another comment about, but she just punches him in the face. And she goes to knee him in the junk, but he says that she'll be the one disappointed later if she does that. And she tells him she wants to cut it off.
I mean, appropriate response. He's being very cheeky, like not in a good way. He's being a bit of a dick. He's
100% being a dick, and I just don't really understand why. Poppy's like really trying to beat the shit out of him. And Delano asks if they should intervene, but Elijah, who is another one of the guards that we met last week, says it's the most entertainment he's seen in a while. And he says, who would have thought the maiden could throw down? Kieran then comments that this is why you don't mix business with pleasure. And, right? Elijah says that his money is on her then, which I like. Hawke then pins her and tells her to stop, but Poppy starts yelling that she hates him. And this moment, I feel like, is when it's kind of got a bit too far. Like, he's still joking around with her, and she is having a breakdown. And I think it's like, this is the moment he should have been like, okay, everybody else leave. We need some time. But then, not only is she having a meltdown about this, he's the one straddling her now, basically. And she can see his teeth. And she realizes that he's not just a dissenter, but he's an Atlantean. Which is a big reveal that you're like, you could have probably figured this out before. She even remembers the feel of his teeth on her neck and when they were kissing. And she's like, ah, yes, they were extra sharp. So, you know. Maybe something she could have noticed. She calls him a monster, and he says she finally sees him for what he is. And all she can really think is, like, his people created the Craven who killed her parents. So, like, she's starting to, like, get very upset. Not even just starting. She is, like, already upset, and now, like, it went from this guy killed 2 of her guards to he's the reason Victor's dead to now he's the reason her parents are dead. So it's like, there's a lot happening.
Yeah.
Once she realizes that, like, the fight kind of goes out of her because she's just, like, exhausted and upset, which is not surprising. So Hawke asks Delano to lock her up where she can't hurt anyone or herself. But there's a bunch of people around now, I guess, because somebody asks if they're really going to feed and shelter the maiden, and they say they should just kill her and send her head to the king and queen. But Hawke basically just tells everyone, like, she's not to be touched. So Delano brings her to, like, cells in the basement, I guess, and shackles her to a bed, basically. And the cells there, like, have bones hanging from the ceilings, which is interesting. I don't know if that was, like, an ascended choice or if that was, like, these guys did it. It's just, like, it just seems not great. Poppy kind of wonders, like, how she ended up here. She went from, like, wanting to run away with Hawke to being a prisoner again, literally locked up in a cell. Mm-hmm. And she realizes, like, she was so desperate to make a connection with somebody that she kind of got herself in this situation on her own.
Which is so unfortunate, because I feel so bad for her, because that is so true. Like, she was starved for meaningful connection. Mm-hmm. And she literally went for the first person that showed her any sort of empathy or like, real kindness.
The first person who ever treated her as a human, basically. Yeah. Like, yeah. So she's having a bit of a crisis because she doesn't understand why he would do all of this. Like, why did Hawke have sex with her when he's just working for the Dark One, who is the person who killed the last maiden? So, like, why did he take it that far? It seems unnecessary. Yeah. At the very least. Delano brings her food and tells her it's safe. He says if the prince wanted her dead, she would be. So that's comforting, I guess.
Well, but, like, is she really in the mood to eat right now? Like, she's literally having a personal crisis.
Right? She does eat it, though, because she's like, I need my strength if I want to escape, which is true.
Smart.
Hawke then shows up to talk to her, which I think was long overdue. And she asks if he's going to kill her because he's an Atlantean. But he says it's ironic because she's been, like, surrounded by Ascendants her whole life. And she kind of counters that they're not the ones that make the monsters. And he says, yeah, they're just the ones that use a cane against a young woman. And she realizes that he knows what the Duke used to do in his lessons. And, like, she's immediately kind of embarrassed by that, which we've kind of talked about before. And, like, obviously I do understand why she feels embarrassed, because it's, like, it feels shameful. It never should, and nobody should ever be embarrassed or feel shame about being abused. But I do also understand why she feels like that. Yeah. She asks him how he knows, and he tells her that he can be compelling, and basically tells her that he's the one who killed the Duke. And he says he would have killed the Lord too if she didn't do it first.
Which, like, I think we could tell anyway, just through the evolution of their relationship. But I feel like that act and knowing that he did that for her sort of should not cement, but certify to her at least a little bit that he cares about her. Yeah. Right? Like, he left the Duchess alive, so it's not like he needed to kill the Duke.
Yeah. But it also...
But he did.
So my issue with it is, I don't know when he says it, might have been in the last scene, but he says that he didn't know that the dissenters were going to attack that night. But he killed and strung up the Duke, and then they just happened to attack immediately after that. Like, is that just a hell of a coincidence?
I actually think it is. I think they were like, oh, look, this is a good time. And then they just did it.
Fine. I will take that. Hawke then, I guess, smells that she's injured.
I don't, like...
Yeah. You know how it goes with their amazing smelling.
Sense of... Mm-hmm.
So he gets Delano to, like, bring him a medical kit so that he can clean and bind her wound. Because was she... I can't remember if it was a claw or a sword or a dagger that got her across the stomach, but it was something. So, not good. And he obviously goes to, like, pull up her shirt to look at her stomach, but she tells him not to touch her. And he says, you weren't saying that last night.
Yeah, he's being a righteous jackass at this point. Like, maybe handle her with a little bit of kid gloves, because, like, her whole, like, world has just been turned upside down. So maybe it'll just a little bit nicer at this point.
I just don't understand it, because, like, he's not a jackass most of the time, and then for some reason right now he's just being a complete jackass. But she does obviously know that, like, he's stronger because he's an Atlantean, and she's kind of powerless, so she lies down on the mattress so he can look at the wound, and she asks if any of this was real, and he just avoids the question and cleans her wound, and then he tells her, like, about the actual history of Atlanteans. So, he said...
History lesson!
Right? He says it all started with the king of Atlantia, Malik, who fell in love with his mortal mistress, Isbeth, and she was apparently fatally stabbed by someone. Like, it's kind of rumor, like, maybe it was the queen who was his wife killed her, or one of the king's past lovers, because he is also a piece of shit.
Had a lot of lovers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And King Malik couldn't let her die because he loved her so much, so he drank her blood and then gave her his blood, which was at the time forbidden, and it created the first Ascended, or Vampire, as Hawke calls them. Poppy asks Hawke how old he is in a very Twilight-like moment, and he says that he has seen 2 centuries come and go, so he old. He tells Poppy that vampire can be killed by the sunlight, that they need to drink mortal blood. So they're like stereotypical vampires that we know about. And he says that Atlanteans can apparently survive on each other's blood. They don't need mortals' blood because they've never been mortal, whereas vampires used to be mortal, so they need mortal blood to live.
Right.
He says Craven are actually the product of vampires draining mortals. So it's not Atlanteans that make Craven. It's the Ascended / vampires. Shock. Poppy asks how Ascendeds can be made, because, like, obviously they would need Atlanteans' blood, and he says they use an Atlantean. Vampires apparently can't control their bloodlust, and they kept making Craven, so the queen declared that they had to be destroyed to stop, like, the Craven from taking over, basically. And this is what triggered the vampires to revolt and basically started the War of 2 Kings, or whatever it was, ages ago. The Atlanteans weren't defeated, and King Malik was apparently exiled, and the queen then married a new guy who became the king. They ended up removing their forces and retreating to Atlantia just to stop the fighting so that they didn't destroy the world. Malik and Isbeth apparently disappeared, and he wasn't defeated, as the Ascended history says. So I don't know if that ever comes up. I haven't read far enough for it to.
I feel like it must.
It has to.
I think this comes up in, like, book 4.
It has to. Otherwise, why would you bring it up? Yeah.
He's definitely, like, one of the big bads that she has to, like, fight in the end.
Oh, guaranteed. Probably. Good guess. The Ascended used the Atlantean gods, who had long since gone to sleep, according to Hawke, as the reason for their new abilities. So they basically were like, yeah, the gods gave us this power so that we could defeat the Atlanteans, and that's why Ascendeds were created. He also tells Poppy that apparently many mortals fought with the Atlanteans against the Ascended, and to, like, try to stop them. And obviously Poppy has learned a completely different history than this, because the Ascendants are the ones that won the battle, allegedly, so they came up with their own lies. He then tells her that the Ascended take the 3rd and 4th children to feed upon. Which, yeah, it's very sad.
Like, I can't even, like, thinking about the little baby.
I know. It's just, I don't understand. I do understand, but it's just so bad. But that's kind of when Poppy loses it. Because it's too much. She gets angry, but he does keep going. And he says that's why no one sees the children after the rite. They're fed on, and they become craven.
Well, like, if they're feeding on them, wouldn't it be... Like, if they don't want to make craven, why aren't they just draining them?
I think if you drain them, they become craven. That's why he snapped Melissa's neck, or whatever her name was, in the first one. I think if they're drained...
I thought you had to drain them or you would become craven, but if you drain them, they were just dead.
I don't really know.
Okay.
Maybe we'll get that at some point. Because, like, if a craven bites a person...
They become infected.
And they become a craven,
cursed,
yeah.
And they become craven.
But I'm assuming if you drain someone, they become craven, but that doesn't really make sense either, because, like, you'd think there'd have to be some blood transfer. But I don't know how things work.
Yeah, I don't get it.
We'll figure it out someday, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he says that's why nobody sees the children after the rite. They're fed on, they become craven. And he also says the number of children that die of blood diseases is so high because the Ascended can't help but, like, go after people and kill them. So,
I guess he's sort of implying that they sneak into people's houses and feed on the kids.
Yeah. And, like, it isn't even just kids. It's, like... at anybody, people. Really, yeah. So, like, the Tulis has lost 2? Yeah, it was their third son.
2 children.
Yeah, 2 children to a blood disease. So, which seems, like, so cruel. Like, why are you going back to the same family? Like, I know they don't care, but anyway.
But they're also, like, somewhat mindless about it, too. So, like, they can't even help it.
Yeah. He does tell her... Hawke does that. He knows she doesn't want to believe this because it means her brother is feeding on innocent people now too. And she realizes that probably is true. Like, that's why she doesn't want to believe that this is the right history. But she is starting in her head to, like, question it because, like, she can't really accept what he's saying, but it is also just a really wild and elaborate tale to just tell her to fuck with her. So she's like, why would he do this? It's so unbelievable that, like, it has to kind of come from somewhere.
Yeah.
So of course she goes to attack him. But
yes.
But he
why not?
Exactly. But he grabs her to his chest and kind of, like, pins her to the wall. So her back is to him. And to kind of, like, stop her from struggling. And he says he doesn't want to hurt her. But she says he's already... And she starts to say hurt her, but she stops herself. Because she doesn't want to admit that he's hurt her. But, like, he has to know he's hurt her.
He knows. Come on.
But he kind of acts, like, surprised when she starts to say that. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? She's fighting against him. And, of course, that turns him on, too. And she calls him a murderer.
Time and a place, buddy.
Right? She calls him a murderer because she's kind of trying to get herself less turned on because she's also turned on by him. And she just wants to remind herself that, like, he's killed so many people. She literally saw him kill someone a few seconds ago. But he just agrees. And he says that the Dark One had a hand in her guard's death, and so did he. And it's just a funny, like, he's distancing himself from the Dark One a tiny bit, which is interesting. And she also obviously blames Hawke for Victor's death, which isn't surprising. He does tell her it was likely an Ascended who killed the girl who was drained in the first week of this book. I think her name was Melissa or something similar.
Something, yeah.
And he says it was probably the Lord. And then Poppy remembers Lord Mazine. I keep calling it the Lord and then thinking of God. And Poppy remembers smelling flowers on his hands and then seeing the flower in the room. And, like, she's like, yes, it was definitely the Lord. Mazine, like, I know it was. And Hawke says it's not his fault that the dissenters attacked. So, yeah, this is about the night when Victor died. He says just because they follow the Dark One doesn't mean that the Dark One is giving them orders. And she believes him, but she also still blames the Dark One, which is, like, fair. They're doing it in his name, even if he isn't the one orchestrating it.
Yeah.
Then Hawke tells her, kind of out of nowhere, that she belongs to him.
Ooh.
And she asks if he means that she belongs to the Dark One. And he says that he said what he meant, princess. Okay. She tells him that she doesn't belong to anybody. But he says, like, she belonged to the Ascended. And now she basically belongs to him. And she says that at least the Ascended's cage was nicer than this one. Which is...
valid point, man. Although, like, it might have been nicer, but her treatment probably wasn't better.
Well, no. Yeah, it wasn't. Although I guess she doesn't really know what's going to happen here either. So
no,
she's afraid she's going to die.
Right. Yeah.
He agrees that their cage was nicer, but he does tell her, like, she's never been free, which is true, but, like, it's just sad. Doesn't it just...
It's sad, and then the fact that he then is content to keep going the way he's going, and he's like, you're mine, you belong to me, and he's like, oh, I know you've never been free, poor you, not gonna change anytime soon.
Exactly. It just seems intense, and he seems like an asshole. But she tells him, like, she's never going to submit, she'll never stop fighting him, which isn't surprising. And he then reminds her of the scar on his thigh, and he asks if she noticed that it looks like the royal crest. And she kind of thinks back to it, and she's like, oh, it really does. And he asks her if she wants to know how he has such intimate knowledge of the Ascension. And then he tells her he was held in one of the temples for 5 decades, and he was sliced and cut and fed upon, and his blood was poured into golden chalices that the second sons and daughters drank out of. So, for the Ascendeds to become ascended, for mortals to become ascended, they need to be drained and then to drink Atlantean blood. So basically, they just had Hawke kidnapped for 5 decades and used his blood without his permission. Right. He then tells her, like, he wasn't just used for blood, he was used as entertainment, and he didn't have a choice in what he was made to do. So he does understand, like, her life and where she's coming from, which we kind of felt before, that, like, he was a very understanding of her situation.
This bothers me, though, because he's saying, oh, I understand where you're coming from, I get what it's like to be in your life, but then he's like, I'm still gonna keep you jailed, though, like, I'm still gonna keep you prisoner, and, like, just what he says versus his actions are not lining up for me.
Yeah, and there's a lot to it. Just give me a minute. He also tells her that the queen is the one who branded him, which is a big deal for Poppy because she is very close with the queen. The queen essentially raised her after her parents died.
Yeah.
Hawke then tells her that if not for the foolish bravery of another, he'd still be there. And Poppy can't believe that this is true. And he tells her, like, the prince / Dark One and Hawke don't want her dead because she is so important. And Hawke tells her that the Ascended currently have the true heir to the kingdom captured and are using him for his blood. And when Hawke was saved, I guess he was captured. And she realizes she didn't really know that the Dark One had a brother, but I guess the Dark One has an older brother. And the deal is going to be to trade Poppy for Prince Malik. And she kind of asks him if after everything he just said is true, like he's really just going to send her back to the Ascended. And it makes her think that like he really doesn't care about her at all. And it kind of hurts more than the other betrayal. And like...
But like, valid point.
100%. But I kind of feel like this is why Hawke is being such an asshole right now. Like, this is the reason. He's like, I have to give her back to the Ascended, so I'm just going to keep her prisoner, be an asshole, and just get rid of her type thing. So, like, I think that's why he's being such a dick. Not that it makes it okay, but he's trying to, like, keep some distance there. But I'm like, you should have done that before. Why were you having sex with her?
Yeah.
Anyway, he tells her he's leaving soon to meet with the king of Atlantia to tell him that he has Poppy. And he, like, as he's walking away from her, he says, not everything was a lie, Poppy. Not everything.
Blech.
Right?
It's just so polarizing for me. Like, on one hand, he's like, yeah, there are cruel assholes and I'm going to give you back, but I still care about you.
It just, I'm just, like, shook. What are you doing? You seem like a moron.
Yeah.
But then, yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, he goes, like, everywhere in these last few chapters, I feel like.
He's very hot and cold.
He's very hot and cold. So, essentially, Poppy spends the night in the jail cell trying to figure out what she thinks is true and what is possibly a lie. So, she says that she thinks she believes Hawke when he says that the Ascended are actually vampires. Especially considering, like, how cruel some of them are, like the Duke and Lord Mazine. So, like, she gets it that maybe they aren't being found worthy by gods. Maybe they're just vampires. She also does believe that Lord Mazine killed that girl. And she sort of had it figured out before he even said anything, like making that whole connection with the jasmine flowers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, I honestly do think that she sort of knew that anyway. But, like, did she not think that Ascended had teeth?
She didn't.
Like, she wasn't aware that they also have the two teeth?
So, like, are they retractable?
They must be retractable. I thought Hawke's were also retractable.
He was hiding them, which I don't know how you can do anything with your mouth and keep your teeth hidden. Maybe.
I assume hidden by having them be retractable. And maybe when he gets, like, really angry or turned on, they just come out of their own volition, which is why she felt them scraping her neck or whatever. That's how I'm going to take it. That's what I'm going to choose to believe. She also said that she does believe that Hawke was held for the 5 decades and, like, that how he got the brand. Like, he got the brand by being held and that he was a prisoner and blah, blah, blah. But she does not believe that the queen did it herself.
Yeah.
Like Hawke said. Because, again, she still associates the queen as being somebody, like, warm and kind and protective. And she just doesn't see her being able to do it. So, like, I don't know. Like,
I think that's her naivety.
It is. And, like, I feel like she's putting the Ascended into sort of 2 categories. Either the soulless assholes, like the Duke and Mazine, and then the Queen. And so, like, I just feel like maybe she doesn't yet realize
I feel like she
things.
needs to in her head because she's like, her brother is also one of them. So she wants to believe that they can be good.
Yeah. Yeah. She also said that the reason why she believes how he got that brand and, like, believes that he had been captured, she says that half the reason she believes it is because he was so emotional when he was telling her. Like, she sort of used her gift and, like, saw that he'd been really emotional, and she could sort of tell that he wasn't lying. But she says she doesn't really believe yet that the Ascended are feeding on the third and fourth children, and that they're, like, making them into cravens. And the whole thing about them people dying of the blood sickness, because she just thinks there's no way that anyone could keep that secret. Like, she thinks that if that were the case, it would have gotten out by now, because it happened so much.
Yeah.
And it's become this huge thing. But, like, unless that's why people have chosen to be dissenters. Like, the people that find out become dissenters. Yeah. And then they're killed for being dissenters.
And how are you supposed to get the good news out to the people when you're not in power, when you're, I don't know, just a person?
Yeah.
You don't have audiences with the crowds when you're just a person. You just start yelling in the streets and then you get locked up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no. So, like, obviously it's impossible to spread that around. She also thinks, like, if they are feeding off children, then she's like, that means that every single Ascended is aware of it, because that's their food source, including her brother.
Yeah.
And then also, they still chose to ascend, even knowing that they would have to feed off innocent, which I'm sort of not sold on.
I'm not sold on that either. Because, like, how would you find it out beforehand? If they're just like, you're going to meet the gods, and then they drain you of blood and give you other blood, and then you just become ascended. When did you learn what was going to happen?
Yeah, like, I think this is another bit of her naivety on this part. Like, she's assuming that during the ascension ceremony, they, like, give you, like, here's how to be a vampire 101. Like, before you do it.
Yeah.
I doubt that's the case.
Yeah.
And, like, the way Hawke describes his blood being used, that they were feeding, like, the second children golden chalices of his blood, which I get, but at the same time, how are they, like, enthusiastically taking his blood if they are drained of blood?
So, I think that they were just feeding the mortals that are becoming vampire. I think that they were just using his blood in, like, the chalices, but I think him being, like, cut up and drank from afterwards was part of the entertainment and sport that he had to suffer through. Because I think, like, anybody that is drained of blood enough to become,
like, unconscious.
Yeah, you're not
comatose.
Yeah, you're not, like, craving blood then. Like, you're not going to easily get it. Oh, is that why they're called craven? Because they're craving blood.
I love it. That is so good. Yes. I take that as canon now.
I love it.
Anyway, so yeah. So she's disturbed about the fact that, like, maybe that the people who are ascending are aware of what their futures will be should they ascend, and then are still like, yeah, sign me up.
Yeah. But
I don't know if that's, like,
yeah,
the ceremony is a secret for a reason. I can't imagine people go into it and then are like, here's what's gonna happen, this is gonna happen, then this is gonna happen, do you still want to do it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's what happens.
Yeah, I guess the only thing is, realistically, if you were a good, I say in quotation marks, person, like, maybe you would try to kill yourself after the ceremony. But
maybe
once you've become ascended, like, clearly something happens to you that your emotions don't exist. So, like, would you even have
don't care anymore?
Yeah, would you have the wherewithal to even care about?
It's like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer vampire, like, without a soul. I know.
Oh, souls.
Yeah. But, so, like, also so she's on this sort of disturbing, like, mindset of, like, thinking about, like, how maybe her whole life is a lie. And then she's thinking, like, about her mother and how her mother chose not to ascend. And I don't know if maybe it was mentioned in your part or not, but, like, she says she was thinking to herself, well, you know, my mother chose not to ascend out of love because she loved my father. It had nothing to do with everything they were doing, because she, like, I don't know if somebody may have said something to make her like, you know, your mom didn't ascend because everybody turned into monsters. Like, okay. So I guess, so I don't think it actually was mentioned in your part, but just the way she does the jump weirds me out. So, like, she's already said before that she has very few memories of her mother, right?
Yeah.
So she is thinking about how her brother did not refuse to ascend, meaning that, like, even though they learned what it would cost, like, aka drinking mortals and essentially eating babies, the brother still chose to ascend. And she was like, my mother did not choose. She refused to ascend. And then she says,
yeah,
my mother refused to ascend. And she said, but it's because she loved my father.
Yeah.
And then it says, not because she learned the truth and had passed it on. She refused because of love, and the Dark One still killed her. So, like, I don't understand where she's making that leap. Like, why, like, yeah, your mom refused the ascension, but why are you making the leap? Like, maybe it was for morality reasons. Like, you don't remember your mother. You don't, like, how do you know that your mother was an especially kind, moral person? And I know that sounds weird coming out. Like, everyone wants their mom to be a kind, loyal person, but, like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? I just don't understand why her brain is saying, like, oh, all of a sudden, maybe it wasn't for love. Maybe it was because she knew it was wrong. Like, why? What evidence do you have?
Yeah.
To support that?
Yeah, and I also don't really, because, like, at one point I remember one of my parts, she was talking about how, like, her and her mother are the only people she knows that actually don't want to ascend, because Tawny was super excited about ascending.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it just seems weird.
Yeah.
At best.
Anyway, but she's now thinking, oh, well, maybe the Duchess lied, and maybe it's not because she loved my father. Maybe she thought it was wrong, and that's why she didn't ascend.
But then she didn't warn her children about what would happen. And,
well, I guess they're too little. Like,
how much older is her brother than her? Is her brother older?
Only 2 years. So,
okay,
like, he might have been, like, I think she was, like, 3 or 4, which meant he would have been 5 or 6. Like, I don't think it's old enough to be, like...
6. But still, he would have been 8.
Yeah. I still don't think it's old enough to be like, listen, if they offer you to ascend, don't do it. You'll eat babies.
They also probably didn't think they were going to die.
Maybe not. Anyway, she's trying to, like, wrap her head around everything, and, like, the Craven too, because she's starting to make connections with what Hawke is saying about how, like, they aren't controllable and, like, they're made by Ascended, because she's like, the Ascended tell everyone that the Dark One makes the Craven and controls the Craven, and that's why they attack, because the Dark One makes them attack. But she's, like, thinking to herself, they seem to be uncontrollable. Like, she's never seen one stop and, like, change a tactic or try and think strategically during a fight. Like, they're just, like, mindless, like, monsters and, like, single-minded. Mm-hmm. And she was like, so if it's true that they're not controlled by the Dark One at all and are just, like, mindless monsters, then the Ascended are using the population of Solace, using their fear of the Craven to control them and make them hand over their children without question.
100%.
Which is, do I agree with it? Absolutely not. I think it is one of the worst possible things you can do. Do I think it's really smart of the Ascended? It's genius.
Yeah.
But I still think they're fucking assholes.
Obviously.
Yeah. She's going back now to her brother. She can't believe that her brother would choose to ascend if he knew. And maybe not. But, like, come on, man.
Who's giving these people a choice? Like, I feel like it's, like, blackmail. They're like, now you're a part of us, so you can't tell on us. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah. Yeah. She sort of thinks Hawke might be, like, messing with her about some of it. As well as the fact that, like, he says all this about them, but, like, he's still planning on returning her to them. Like, she thinks that is really, like, sick and twisted. And it is.
100%. Especially since he had sex with her. Why did he have sex with her?
He's such a dummy. Like, he led with his dick first.
Well, yeah. He is a man.
Yeah. Anyway, so she said, like, she's determined. She's not going to cry about what he did to her. Like, he broke her heart, but she's going to take this as, like, a lesson. So.
That's good.
Good for her. But, like, it sucks because I feel like this is a terrible lesson for her to have to learn.
Yes.
Her life has been so shitty, and I feel like this is just one more shitty thing that's happened to her, and it sucks.
It does.
I feel bad.
I do too, but I'm also like, why? Why, sir? Why did you do this to us? We all had high hopes for you, and you just fucked us over.
Yes.
I'm very upset at you.
Yeah. So, two Wolven, I don't know how she identifies them as Wolven. Like, I know she knows, so Delano comes in, and I know she already knows he's Wolven. But another guy named, I don't know how to pronounce it, Niall?
Sure. Isn't it spelled the same as the One Direction guy?
I don't know. Whatever. So, Delano and Niall come into the jail. She knows they're Wolven. And they say that they are taking her out. They're unlocking the cell. And they're going to take her to more comfortable quarters. So, I guess Hawke took to heart, like, that at least the Ascended put her in more comfortable prison, like a more comfortable cell. So maybe he's going to do the same thing. She's thinking, yes, perfect time, I'm going to escape.
Of course.
And like you would. But Delano's like, now I know you're thinking about escaping. Like, they already know, and I love it.
Me too.
But he's like, I need to tell you that it's a really bad idea.
Sounds like the best idea I've ever had, sir.
Right, yeah. But he's like, I'm a Wolven, so I've got really impeccable tracking skills. And he was like, if you run, like, I'll have no choice. I have to chase you. And he's like, and I will get you. And Niall's like, yeah, and, you know, guess what? I'm faster than he is, and I will catch you. But, like, on top of that, they also say, like, we both have a feeling that you could probably, like, create a weapon out of thin air. So, like, if you fight us and hurt us, which you probably will, we will defend ourselves, which means, like, you could die.
Yeah.
And, like, can you really take on two Wolven?
Yeah.
And they were like, neither of us want to hurt and or kill you by accident, just, like, defending ourselves. And neither of them want to be pinned to the wall in the Great Hall by Hawke for disobeying him by harming her. Which is an interesting thing to say, I'll just say.
Yes.
But at least they're, like, saying, like, we know you could hurt us, but we would then hurt you back, and we don't want to do that. So she's really smart here because she's like, shit, I know that I'm outmatched. I know that if I run now, I got nothing, which I appreciate because I feel like a lot of the heroines we read would, like, go on instinct first and, like, count on luck to sort of, like, get them through. Whereas she's like, no, I'm going to be smart about this. I know I'm outmatched here, so I'm just going to go with them. I'm going to do what they say for now. But she also appreciates that they know she's dangerous. Like, she appreciates that they aren't underestimating her and aren't underestimating that she could get some licks in. She could hurt them a little bit.
Yeah.
So they unlock her chains and they're about to take her out when Jericho, the one-handed guy, and a group of others come in. And this is where it gets interesting. So he's pissed that she cut him earlier. And then she has to pipe up twice because she cut him in the courtyard as well. And he's also pissed that even though it was Hawke that I guess took his hand off for disobeying, he's blaming that on her.
Yeah.
So he's pissed and he wants his pound of flesh, we'll say. So Delano's like trying to reason with them that like, guys, you know that Hawke has said she's not to be harmed. So like, if any of you lay a finger on her, like Hawke's gonna kill you.
Yeah.
And they're all like, yeah, but she's the maiden. Like, she was raised by the Ascended. And one guy's like, the Ascended took my son in the middle of the night. And it's like, yeah, they did. But she's not an Ascended. She's still a human.
Yeah.
Anyway, they essentially want to punish her for the Ascended because she's the closest thing to them that they have. Which, like, I can see where they're coming from, but I don't think it's correct.
It's not correct. And even, like, just why are you going against Hawke, who is clearly in charge here?
Yeah.
When he said, if you touch her, I will kill you. Specifically said that to Jericho, I think.
Yeah.
I just don't understand.
But I wonder if they feel like he'll get over it, or maybe they think they could take him, like, as a collective.
They can't think that, because then the king and queen will kill them. Like, it just, I wonder if they just think, like, oh, he got too close, she needs to die. And we'll deal with the issues afterwards.
Repercussions later. Maybe
they're like, oh, we'll go to the king and queen, say we killed her, and this is why, and they'll side with us.
Maybe.
Which is not a bad plan, I guess.
No.
Now that I've thought it through.
Anyway, so, like, Niall tries to tell the guy, like, yeah, sure, the Ascended took your son, but that's not Poppy. She had nothing to do with taking your son, to try and, like, persuade him, like, he's being an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy then says, like, listen, I know that the plan is to use the maiden to free the prince's brother, but they were like, we need to face facts. The prince is most likely dead. So they want to send the maiden's body back, tortured and dead, to send a message.
Yeah. Which, like, so Hawke did said many years ago, and he said he was there for 5 decades that he was being held. So I wonder how long, like, has the...
I think it's only been, like, it may have been a decade.
Since his
or like
brother was there?
Since he was, yeah, I think.
So why?
Like, I think it's been a while. Like, it wasn't yesterday. Like, it's been years. Maybe not a full 10. It might be like 5 or something like that.
But if it's less
maybe
than
7.
If it's less than 10, why do they think he's crazy?
I don't know.
Because Hawke spent 5 dozen.
50.
50. 50.
Yes.
5 dozen. Yes, let's add 10 more for the hell of it.
It's fine.
Hawke spent 5 decades there, so I just don't really understand why they think, like, the brother is crazy. The crown prince, we'll say.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Well, they think he's dead.
He can't be dead.
They think he's dead. They were like, he's probably not alive.
Then how would they still be making Ascended? Oh, wait. Oh. Remember, in this book, all of the ascensions are tied to poppies now, so they all stopped for a while. So I wonder.
But if I don't know,
because they like after her brother, but still.
Yeah, they say she's the future.
Yeah, they said that it's like the biggest ascension that's ever gonna happen is tied with hers. So they stopped ascending people for a while so that they could wait until her 19th birthday, and then it's gonna be a giant one. Mm-hmm. So does that mean that they don't have any blood anymore because his brother's dead? Maybe. I wonder.
Could be.
Interesting.
We don't really find out. And I got halfway through book 3 and I still never found out. So.
Yeah.
But yeah. So they want to send a message because they said, like, it's one of the few opportunities they have to send a message and show the Ascended that, like, they're not extinct, they're not weak. Because I think right now that's how the Ascended behave. Mm-hmm. As if, like, the Atlanteans don't exist and the Wolven are extinct and all that. Like, I feel like they just treat them like they're not even a threat.
Yeah.
And I think these guys are like, we need to show them that we're not powerless and that we still, like, we are people.
Yeah, we aren't just, we...
laying down and...
Yeah, but they also aren't just, like, the mortal dissenters. Like, they're more than that.
Yeah. So one of the guys, so there's I think 7 in total. It's Jericho and then 6 other guys. And they're not all Wolven. There's a combination of like human and Wolven. And one of them, not Jericho, tries to get Delano on their side by saying, like, think of how the Ascended killed your whole family. Like, they killed your entire den, your mom, your dad, and your sisters. Started even saying, like, yeah, your sisters had to wait before they were carved up, and, like, trying to, like, push Delano. And Delano's like, dude, I know how they died. Like, thank you. I don't need you to remind me. But, like, that wasn't this girl. Mm-hmm. And I almost feel like she should have piped up and been like, dude, they were beating me on a regular basis. Like, I know she's ashamed and embarrassed about saying that, but I feel like if she told a bit more of her story about how she was mistreated, I think they would be a little bit more sympathetic to her instead of thinking she was one of them.
I think some of them would be, specifically maybe one person.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
Yeah, I think that it might have been able to work in that case. But I don't think, like, Jericho's there to bathe in her blood. He don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe some of the others would. So all of a sudden, like, so Delano's like, no, like, I ain't moving. Like, you're going to have to get through me to get to her. And all of a sudden, another voice pipes up and says that she just stood there as the Duke and Duchess told him his child had to be given to the gods. She stood and did nothing. And he, like, comes out of the shadows and, surprise, surprise, it's Mr. Tooley. And Poppy's, like, shocked that he's there. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, is your son with you? Like, what happened? Because she doesn't even know what happened. She just knows that they were supposed to be at the right and they weren't. Mm-hmm. And he answered, she was like, is your son with you? And she was like, the Ascended will never lay a hand on my son. So, yay.
Yeah.
Good.
It is, yeah.
But then, like, I'm glad that they escaped. But then Delano admits, like, it was the prince that helped him escape. And, like, so why are you going against the prince's orders now?
Yeah.
And he sort of... Mr. Tooley just says, I would do anything to feel the blood of the Ascended on my hands. And I'm like, again, that's great. But Poppy's not Ascended.
Yeah.
So But Poppy then, and she says that. She's like, but I'm not ascended. And he says, no, but you're just their whole future.
Does everybody know something we don't? Like,
I don't know.
Because it never really gets discussed, like...
We don't get it at all, like, what they plan to do with her. And I don't know I can't remember if it's in the next book or if it's in book 3, or maybe it's in book 4. I don't even know if book 5 is out yet. But, like, it must be somewhere. We just haven't got it yet. Which really bothers me. I want to know.
Yeah, I want to understand their motives here, because I'm a bit confused. And I feel like partway through 3rd book, I shouldn't be as confused as I am, but I also do think half the reason is I just was confused.
It was a long time between reads.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so book 5 is coming out in July.
Oh, fun.
So.
Okay. So that'll be interesting. So, Jericho is, like, prepared to kill Delano and Niall to keep their secret. And he just thinks the prince is he's like, yeah, the prince will get over it.
Yeah, and he won't know who did it.
Will he?
How is he not going to know who did it, too? Like...
I mean, he can smell when Poppy is injured, so I feel like he'll be able to smell other things. Niall then, like, just, like, willy-nilly decides to transform, and then he bites someone. And then the guy's like, he bit me! Which I thought was really funny. It's like, he actually bit me! So, like, now Niall is, like, a big wolf. Delano gives Poppy his sword, and he tells her to kill any of them that get close. And then he also transforms into a wolfie.
Smart.
Yeah. Jericho sort of is then taunting Poppy now, and he's like, oh, you're real popular. And winks at her. And she just responds with, and I have 2 hands.
I do like that.
And I love it. I love it so much. Because she just keeps bringing it up over and over again that he's missing a hand.
Oh, God.
And it's just funny.
It is.
She brings up a lot that he's missing a hand, and I'm here for it. Because he is trying to kill her, so why not?
And he's missing a hand because of her. Technically.
More because of him, but...
Well, yeah.
She's involved.
Yeah.
Anyway, so some, like, mortal guy enters her cell, and she tells him, like, she doesn't want to hurt him. But then he answers, great, because I do want to hurt you. And it's just sort of like, whoa, dude, like, chill the beans. Like, just yikes.
Yeah.
She, like, I don't think he's very skilled at hand-to-hand combat because she, like, knocks him out right away.
Yeah, but I think she's, like, much more skilled than we think.
Oh, I'm sure she's extremely skilled.
Yeah.
But I just feel like she's going against, like, just a regular mortal guy. I can't imagine he's that great.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were still talking about Jericho. I missed something. My bad.
Oh, no.
My brain didn't make the connection.
Like, no, I'm talking about the mortal guy that was the first one to go into her cell and say, I want to hurt you. Mm-hmm. She's like, yee. So then she knocks him out. Then another, like, Wolven, not Jericho, comes into her room and they fight a bit. And she does get a couple of slashes in with the sword, but the Wolven manages to claw down her front and scratch her. But, like, I'm not sure. It doesn't get into whether it's, like, a deep wound or whether it's just a scratch. Mm-hmm. It just says, like, there's a burning and her shirt is, like, torn down the middle a little bit. Mm-hmm. So, like, I have no idea if that's, like, if that was like something bad or just something minor. And I just want to say how original that it almost rips her shirt in half so that she's fighting, like, half with the boobs out, essentially.
It would be interesting if this ever becomes a show or movie.
Yeah. Yes, it would. Anyway. So she loses the sword fighting with that Wolven. Like, she tries to like give a deep slash and it like gets stuck in his fur or something like that. So she has to let go. Across the cell or across the room, somebody knocks Niall out, and some dude named Rolf and Delano are fighting. And I guess he's transformed back into a human at this point, I think. It doesn't really get into it. And Rolf is, like, heading towards him to, like, kill him and do the killing blow. So Poppy grabs, like, a sickle sword, like one of those, like, roundy, swordy things, and essentially cuts Rolf in the back of the neck and kills him instantly. But again, like, that means she's not paying attention to whoever was fighting her in the cell. So somebody knocks her down and claws her, like, someone knocks her down from behind and, like, claws her back a little bit. Then whoever it is uses their claws in her shoulder to roll her over. So, like, they dig in and, like, roll her over, making, like, an injury in her shoulder. She still has the sickle sword, so she, like, swings it and cuts them in the side. She's about to stand up when somebody kicks her in the stomach. It's Jericho this time.
Of course.
And he sort of gets close to her. He's constantly underestimating her. And she ends up cutting down his forehead and over his eye, which just gives me super heebie-jeebies.
Yeah.
So, like, eye stuff really gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Me too. I don't like it.
I don't know.
Not a fan.
Yeah. So, like, she's doing a decent job at this point fending everyone off. And she gets up, and all of a sudden, Mr. Tooley is there, and he stabs her right in the stomach with a dagger.
Eee.
And I don't know if he removes it. Like, I can't really remember, but she tells him that she was relieved she didn't see him at the right. And he looks surprised.
Yeah.
And this is sort of another moment where, like, he doesn't get, not that he doesn't get redemption, because I don't know if he deserves it, but, like, I wish he gotten a chance to process this and show remorse. But we don't get a remorseful Mr. Tooley.
No. Well.
So, she is, like, I guess, I don't know, I've never been stabbed in the stomach, but apparently it's bleeding out quite fast. Like, it's, like, dripping down her leg and making, like, a puddle on the floor, like, quite quickly. And Jericho comes over and claws her, don't know where, on the body. She slips and falls in her own blood, which is, like, that's quick.
Yeah.
Like, I did not realize blood ran that fast, but apparently it does. And he sort of taunts her that he thinks he's going to take her hand first, and then he sort of insinuates that he's going to use it to jerk off. Like,
yeah.
He's a D-bag. Like, he's just as bad as Lord Mazine.
Mm-hmm.
Which just goes to show you that not one side or the other is wholly right. People can be assholes on both sides.
It's true.
The other people that came to, like, attack are now watching, because he's, like, sort of climbed on top of her and is, like, just, like, talking to her and, like, taunting her. And the other people that are still either not knocked out, still alive, are cheering and laughing at his taunts and suggesting other body parts to keep, which is great. Very, very normal. Like, I don't know about you, but that's definitely what I do on a Friday night. I'm kidding. It's definitely not. I don't do that.
What?
It's not,
really?
It's not nice. So he's about to start. He's like, well, let's get started. And all of a sudden he's lifted up off the ground and he yelps.
Very dog-like.
Very dog-like, yes. So Poppy sees a Snow White wolven that turns into Kieran, and all he says is, shit, get the prince. So he lifts her off the floor, and all of a sudden she hears Hawke telling her to open her eyes. And she's at this point feeling no pain. Like, she is injured. Because I'm assuming she has more than just, like, the stomach injury. She's also got the shoulder injury. The
scratch down
Jericho,
her front.
Yeah, scratched down her front. I don't know how deep that was. Jericho scratched her somewhere. Don't know where. She's got a few injuries. So she says she's feeling no pain. But she hears Hawke say, please. And she said she's never heard him sound like that before. So she decides she's going to open her eyes. Even though she's, like, near death.
And they've known each other for 4 seconds.
Yeah.
But she's never heard him sound like that, Kristen.
Yeah, I know. They just know each other, Catherine. They get each other.
Yeah.
It feels like they've known each other for years. So yeah, she uses her power at this point. Even though she's near death, she still has control of her power and has enough energy to use it. And she says she feels anguish from him. But she says that it feels deeper than before. Like, less like the ice shards and more like daggers or claws, which I don't really get. Like, is this because she's dying? Like, is his anguish because she's injured at this point and he does care, even though he said, like, 2 minutes ago he didn't?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't really know. Assuming he cares for her more than he's trying to let on, and that's why he feels sad.
Oh, maybe this is when he changes his mind about giving her back.
No, maybe.
When he realizes how shitty this feels.
Could be. So he tells her that he's going to fix it. But she doesn't know how he plans on doing that. He says she won't carry one more scar. And she thinks to herself that she's dying. She's like, I don't know what he plans to do. I'm dying. And he says out loud that no, she's not. So, like, he can read her thoughts?
I think she just said it out loud. It's one of those, like...
No, because it comes up again.
Oh.
Like, it comes up a couple more times where he has to tell her, like, you need to stop thinking what you're thinking. Or, like, she was like, you don't know what I'm thinking. Like, it happens a little bit more. So I'm wondering, like, can he read her thoughts?
Oh, I don't remember.
I also don't remember.
I guess it's a possibility.
Yeah. Anyway.
He is, for all intents and purposes, Edward.
That's a good point. So he bites himself, like, on his wrist and wants her to drink his blood, but she refuses. She's like, no, I don't want to turn into a monster. And he tries to tell her that she won't turn into a monster. Like, it's only going to make her better. And I'm just like, somehow she's dying, but she still has the mental capacity to understand that, because she's thinking in her head, like, if she drinks and she's healed, it means he's telling the truth about everything. Mm-hmm. And it means that, like, Ian chose to ascend, and it means that the ascended are evil. So she doesn't want to drink his blood, because that just proves him right, that he was right about everything. I don't understand how she has the mental capacity to think all this when she's, like, almost dead.
It's just a flesh wound.
Good. Anyway, she says that his blood, like, he's got his, like, wrist, like, shoved up against her face to try and make her drink. And she says that his blood doesn't smell like blood, but it smells like citrus in the snow. What does that smell like? I feel like I should take an orange outside and, like, sit in the snowbank that we still have. Yeah. And be like, and then smell an orange and see, like, what is that smell? How is it identifiable to you? Have you ever smelled citrus in the snow before?
I definitely have, but it hasn't stuck with me. Well, I give my chickens oranges. We cut them in half. Right. We give them to the chickens. There's snow outside. I've definitely smelled it, but, like, it hasn't been, like, any different. You know what I don't understand?
What?
A lot of authors are like, he smells like snow. And I'm like, snow? Does snow have a smell?
No, I mean, that's like, does water have a smell?
Right?
I don't think water has a smell.
Like, the only smell I get from snow is, ow, my nose is cold.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah.
Like, I guess citrus in the snow smells like citrus with a cold nose.
Yeah. Okay. I'll buy that.
That's all I got.
He speaks to her next, like, in a way, and she says that, like, it feels like his voice is everywhere and nowhere at once, and, like, it's loud and quiet, and it's all around her, and whatever he does, whatever he says, it has her doing exactly what he says. So she does drink from him because he commands it. Yeah. In other words, compulsion. Like, he has compulsion. He makes her do it. So she drinks from him. And, of course, we get the whole him being like, that's enough, and trying to pull his arm away, and she won't let go, and then he has to, like, rip it from her. So, of course, we get that whole thing, because you can't have a scene in anything where you offer your blood and have them not try and take too much. It's just the way life works.
Exactly.
So, immediately, she's healed. Mm-mm. And she feels, like, weird and energized, and she says she feels like she's not attached to her body and sort of floaty, and he's like... And she gets that. She's like, you just compelled me. Like, you made me do that. And she sort of asks, like, have you ever done that to me before? And he says, no. Like, I know it would make you feel better if I said yes. Like, make you feel better about things. But no. She's sort of worried now that she's going to turn into a craven or a vampire. And he's like, no. Like, I feel like she missed the part where in order for her to turn, she would have to be drained. Yeah. Like, she missed that memo.
Yeah, I guess a lot was being thrown at her.
I guess. So yeah, he says that him, like, saving her like that and doing what they just did is technically forbidden. And in order for her to turn into something, he would have to be a much more active participant. In other words, drink her blood.
Okay. Thank you.
That's what I took from it. I didn't take it in a sexy way.
I don't think it is in a sexy way. I just was confused for a second because everything he says is in a sexy way.
That's true. He's a horn dog.
Yep.
All of a sudden she starts to get really turned on. And, like, it's really uncontrollable. And, like, she starts to, like, feel herself up. Like, she's, like, parts her shirt and starts, like, pinching her nipples and everything. And it's really, like, I want to say it's really awkward, but he's also getting equally turned on.
Well, he's always turned on.
He is always turned on. And she wants him to kiss her and touch her. But, like, I do appreciate him here. Mm-hmm. He's like, consent-wise. She's like, oh, I want you. And he's like, no, that's just my blood in your body. Like, it'll go away soon. And he's like, this is temporary. Like, and he knows that she will hate him afterwards if they do it and then the feeling wears off. Mm-hmm. So he says, like, I'm a terrible person, but I'm trying really hard to be a good person right now. Like, yeah, he wants it, but he's like, no. She tries to convince him to do it anyway, but all of a sudden, like just as quickly as the feeling came on, like, her blood starts to cool and it starts to fade. And he sort of just says to her, like, he's gonna kill the men that hurt her and no more harm to come to her. No more harm will come to her. But, like, again, he still plans to barter her for Prince Malik. Mm-hmm. Like, he says that. Like, he still plans on doing that. Yeah. So, like, I just don't understand how he thinks those two things combine.
It's also weird because, like, when does he change his mind?
Like, after they go outside. I feel like.
After she in the
Yes. Yeah.
And then in the Okay.
So shortly, they go outside. And, like, it blows my mind that he's still at this point saying, I'm going to barter you for Prince Malik.
Mm-hmm. Me too. Because I thought that when I said was the turning point might be a turning point.
Apparently it is not.
Yep.
She calls him, I guess he's about to leave, and she calls him Castile. So she heard Kieran call him that when she was dying, and she retained that and calls him Castile. And he turns and he says, yeah, like Castile, Cass is my name. And she's like, that's the Dark One's name, Castile. So turns out Hawke is Prince Castile, aka the Dark One, aka Prince Malik's brother. What? Oh my god, what a shocking turn of events.
So shocking. Such a turn.
Yes. You look shocked.
I was shocked. I'm shook.
Yeah. So he says he is that person, but he says, don't call me the Dark One. I don't like it.
Fair.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a great nickname, I guess.
Like we said, and I think maybe even the first episode, I can't remember, all the weeks are running together, but we were talking about how, like, he's obviously the bad guy. His name is the Dark One.
Yeah.
So I can see not liking it.
Yeah. So she gets, like, real pissed off here, and she is, like, sick to her stomach. Like, she feels sick because this sort of moment she realizes that, like, everything really had been a lie. Like, Hawke isn't just a dissenter. He isn't just an Atlantean. He is in the royal family of Atlanteans. He is, like, the big bad. Like, he is the one that they tell, like, kids about to keep them safe. Like, he's the boogeyman, essentially.
Yeah.
And she's like, everything up to this point really has been a lie. Like, he has been manipulating her this entire time, and he obviously doesn't care about her at all, that he just has an agenda, and she is very hurt.
Yeah.
And she hits him. Like, she punches him because she is so upset and just so hurt and so sad and heartbroken. Because she's thinking in her head, he made her fall in love with him. So
Aww.
This is her, like, moment of realization that she loved him. And he manipulated her. And now everyone that she cares for is dead. And dead, maybe not directly because of him, but there's an association with him for every single person she's cared about to be dead.
Yeah.
So she grabs a dagger from the floor and she stabs him right in the heart. And of course it was a bloodstone dagger, so she knows that if you do that to a Craven or an Ascended, they dead?
I don't know if we get how to kill Ascended. I guess if you chop off their head it works, because that worked in...
Yeah.
And, well... Where was the cane was from a blood tree, wasn't it? So it must be. It must be the same for Ascended. And it's the same for Wolven, she said earlier too.
Yeah. So she knows that, like, stabbing him in the heart is a fatal thing. So she's, like, telling him she's sorry because I guess it was a moment of passion and she didn't really realize what she was doing. And she's crying because she sort of obviously is upset with him, obviously, but is also now having to mourn him. And he's trying to, like, wipe away her tears, even though there's a dagger in his heart. So she just, like, boots it. She runs. And she makes it all the way through the keep, I'm calling it, because I don't think it's a full-blown castle.
Yeah.
And then runs, like, out through the snow and is running for the woods, and she's sobbing because she's killed him, but also because he broke her heart, and like everything about them and everything around them was a lie. And all of a sudden, an arm wraps around her waist, and she knows that it's him. And he tells her automatically right off the bat, like, an Atlantean can't be killed by a blow to the heart, which is super convenient.
Yes. Also,
every other mythological creature in this world can be killed by a bluntstone dagger to the heart, except for him.
It does... I do love that she just killed, like, she literally thought she killed him, though. Like, that is badass in the extreme. Yeah. I'm glad he came back, but...
But also good for her, man, because in all fairness, he was a jackass, and he's still being a jackass. Up to this point, he's still saying he's gonna give her back to the evil Ascended people.
Well, and does it get any better later?
God.
So, yeah, no, I completely agree. And, like, she's a prisoner here. Of course she's going to rebel. I love it. I love that she stabs him in the heart.
Yeah. So, and then he says that for an Atlantean, it's head or nothing. So, good for her to know now, I guess.
He shouldn't have told her. He should be like, you need to stab me in the hand to kill me. So that the next time she's mad and stabs him in the hand.
Yeah. And then he said, she forgot that it was real. Because I guess, remember at the end of your part, remember he said, right after they had sex, he said, don't forget that this was real. And now he's calling that back and saying, you forgot that it was real. And it's like, but you still plan to give her back, though.
But also because you were a fucking asshole.
And like you said, you didn't care about her. Like, you literally said you didn't care about her. So, like,
we need her alive.
Like, he's so hot and cold. Like, I don't know what to believe.
Yes.
Anyway. Then he bites her. Yes.
Shock.
Yes. And it's painful for a second, but then it turns into pleasure, and she gets hella horny. And he, after a little bit, stops and pushes her away. And all he says is, I can't believe it, but I should have known. And we get no explanation on that yet. But then he kisses her, and they're wild with each other, and then they're on the ground rolling in the snow, and he rips her clothes off, and he sees, like, she hasn't even had a chance to get cleaned after she almost died. So she's got, like, dried blood all over her from, like, where she was clawed and stabbed. And he sees it, and he essentially says, like, he's going to fucking kill them all. Which is hot. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
He asked, like, if she wants this. Like, he's doing the consent thing, which I appreciate. And she just urges him on, saying more. But, like, literally 5 minutes ago, he was like, I'm gonna be the good guy. I don't want you to hate me in the morning. And that is out the window at this point.
Yeah, 100%. I don't love it. I do love this scene, though. This is the scene that made me give you this book.
Yes. And the scene is pretty good. Like, it's a good scene, but, like, this feels like hate sex to me.
Well, she did just kill him.
Yeah. So he wants her to, like, say his real name. So he's, like, teasing her.
Say my name, say my name.
Yeah. He doesn't want her to call him Hawke. Anyway, so he's teasing her. So instead of saying his name, she calls him Your Highness, which is... And then she flips them over so that she's on top. And
But she does it she does it because she wants to leave, because she doesn't realize. Like, it's very much, like, naive.
Yeah. Well, yes. And then she, like, gets on there and and she moves a little bit. And she's like, oh.
This is enjoyable.
Yeah. So they both come.
Of course.
Yeah. Afterwards, she's confused. I'm confused right along with her. Like, she's confused, so am I. So, like, he tells her that it wasn't a lie, that he could have, like, gotten her out of there and escaped with her to barter her immediately, but he kept delaying it, and he said he couldn't help himself because he was drawn to her and just always wanted to be around her.
Yeah. Well, he knows compulsion. He could have been like, come with me, and then just walked back to Atlantia.
Yeah. 100%. She sort of doesn't understand why he isn't mad at her for trying to kill him. She's like, wait, you're not mad at me? And he's like, yeah, I'm still mad. But he was like, aren't you still mad at me? And she's like, yeah, I am. So, like, I just don't... I'm so confused at this part. Like, I guess their relationship is... I guess their relationship is complicated at this point. Like,
Facebook
put it on your Facebook status. It's complicated.
Yeah.
So I guess she looks at his wound, and it's closed up, and it's like puckering like a scar. And he's sort of like, yeah, it's fine, but she uses her healing. She uses her powers and can tell that, like, it's a pretty severe wound. Like, it's giving him a decent amount of pain. So she decides to take it away, take a bit of the pain away. And he says he understands now why they wanted her and wanted to make her the maiden. Like, why they made her the maiden. Mm-hmm. I wish he would tell us.
Yeah. Like, we have an idea.
Yes, we have an idea. But I also feel like we have an idea because we've read ahead and we've also, like, sort of been analyzing. So we sort of, like, I didn't have an idea when I did my first read through.
No, 100% not. How would we?
No. So he then tells her that he's taking her home. And she's like, Macedonia, like, wherever that other place, the capital. I don't remember what it's called.
I think it's called Cassidonia or something. I think
something
it's
like
literally
Carsidonia?
Thank you.
Carsidonia, like carcinoma.
Thank you. I was like, it's the same thing. It just starts with a C.
Yeah. So, like, is he taking her back to Macedonia, taking her to Carsidonia? And he's like, no, I'm taking you to Atlantia. And sort of like, oh, okay. And then he takes her back to her room to bathe, leaving Kieran to watch her while he goes off and does who knows what. And she asks Kieran if Atlantia still exists, because she was under the assumption that it's not. And she was told that essentially what is now the Wastelands used to be Atlantia, but again, Atlantia was destroyed, so it doesn't exist anymore, but it's the Wastelands. Mm. But Kieran tells her, like, that was like an outpost for us, but, like, that was never Atlantia. And he says that it actually lies beyond the Skotos Mountains. And remember, the Skotos Mountains was that word that she was trying to pronounce and the priestess nearly hit her about.
Yeah.
And Hawke protected her. He also says that it's protected by, like, a magic mist that makes it impossible to find. So if you enter the magic mist, there's no way you're getting out. So that's why they've stayed hidden. A cute little exchange that I didn't really know. So, like, she gets in the bath and she's thinking through everything that happened. Like, she ends up going under the water for a long time. And, like, Kieran... And she's, like, trying to think through things. And Kieran comes in and is like, I'm checking to see if you're alive. And she's like...
I thought she fell asleep.
In the tub, maybe she did.
Yeah.
But she's like, you know, get out, like, I'm naked. And he's like, yeah, so what? And she's like, it's rude. And he's like, well, your people are prudes. Like, your people aren't very fun. Anyway, it was funny.
Yeah.
So anyway, she's in the tub and she's thinking through everything. Like, she knows that she isn't safe there, considering, like, Castile / Hawke's people want to hurt her. Like, they just essentially killed her. But, so she definitely needs a plan to escape. But, like, she also knows that after everything that happened with his blood and him biting her, she isn't turned into anything. So she knows that everything he said about the Ascended is obviously true.
But you'd think that she wouldn't think that, because, like, if a Craven isn't going to turn her from a bite, then wouldn't she, maybe she's immune to becoming a Craven. So how would an Atlantean turn her into a Craven if she couldn't turn into a Craven from a Craven? Like, obviously she's a different case, so
yeah,
I wouldn't take it as proof.
Unless it wasn't a Craven that attacked her to begin with.
Oh, interesting theory.
Yes. Anyway, she also knows now that, like, her brother isn't Ascended. So, like, she's considering them, like, a little bit evil, and now her brother's one of them. But she also doesn't feel safe anywhere. Like, she knows she can't go back to the Queen and to the Duchess and to the Ascended. But she also knows she can't trust Castile, because he still plans to barter her.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't want to go back. And she also knows that, like, while she loves him, he has not said anything about feelings for her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she knows he's attracted to her, but that's a very different thing to love.
Yeah.
Like, he lusts for her. She loves him. So she's not stupid and naive here, which I appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't think he's going to make these grand declarations of love or anything like that. But her plan is to escape and find her brother and try her best to disappear.
Fair plan.
Fair plan. I think she says that, like, she wants to be exempt from the Ascension and just use her magic, like, and help people.
Yeah.
So she gets out of the tub, she goes to the bed, falls asleep. And Castile wakes her up. She asks if he's going to bring her back to the cells, since, you know, she stabbed him. And he said he should. And if everybody found out, he would be expected to bring her back. But he doesn't want to. And she sort of insinuates again that, like, she's still a prisoner no matter the accommodations. And he agrees that she would know. It's exactly what he says. Like, yeah, you would know. And this really bothers me because, like, her whole life she's been imprisoned, which he knows about.
Yeah.
And yet he's still keeping her prisoner.
Yeah.
Like, and I sort of get for, in his mind right now, it's for her own safety, but, like, dude, come on.
Have a conversation.
I feel like we should, like, record a single. Anyway, so he came to bring her to the hall for dinner. But she's like, no, I don't want to eat with you. And I'm like, you literally just had sex with him in the snow. Felt bad about killing him. Made him feel better with your powers. And now you don't want to eat with him? Like, I just...
Yeah. I feel like I could see her be like, I don't want to eat with your people because they just tried to fucking kill me. Yeah. But him, why?
This feels like very Beauty and the Beast because she's like, I would rather starve than eat with you. And it's very Beauty and the Beast for me because he's like, you don't have a choice. You have to eat with me.
Yeah.
And his response is like, I sort of appreciate his response. He's like, I'm not going to let you weaken yourself out of stubbornness. Like, he was like, you can be mad at me and you can fight me on everything. He was like, but just so you know, I'm sick and twisted, so I really like that. I like when you fight me on things.
And he does.
And he does, yeah. Like, he's already said how many times in a row that how many times he said that she's so violent, he likes it. Mm-hmm. Like, so her being difficult, I think he's gonna get a kick out of.
100%.
But he also tells her, like, he's not gonna stop her from lifting a sword to defend others, especially, like, people that she cares about. But he says he's not gonna let her turn the knife onto herself to prove a point. So, in his mind, he's doing this to protect her because he doesn't want her to weaken herself. He wants her in peak physical condition to barter.
He could easily bring food to her room and have a civil conversation with her.
Yeah, but there's a reason he wants her to go with him now to the hall. He has ulterior motives.
I know, but I'm like, I would just conversation first. It's really funny that this is the ending of this book and the beginning of the next book. It has a very similar scene.
Oh, that's funny. So she sort of agrees, like, oh yeah, of course you're not going to let me hurt myself because I'm not a good bargaining tool if I'm dead.
Fair.
And he responds then, and it took me a little bit to get this sentence, and I'm still, like, I want your thoughts on it. He responds, she is nothing to him if she is dead.
I think it means he cares about her, but it's a real dumb way of saying it.
I initially was like, oh, like, but I thought maybe I was interpreting it as him saying he is nothing if she is dead. But that's not what he said. No. He said she's nothing to him if she's dead.
I think it's just meant to imply that she's more to him than he's saying. But I think it's a weird way to say it.
Yeah, I don't think he's a very eloquent person.
No.
If this is the case.
Me neither. The entire next book is a miscommunication trope. So, in my opinion.
Yeah.
From what I remember. I actually haven't read it in a while, but...
Yeah. So, I guess that got her because she agrees to eat with him. Just to show, like, the rest of the dissenters that she has his protection. She's sort of hoping that they won't try and attack her anymore if she goes to eat with him. Fair. So they go to the Great Hall to eat. And on their way, on their way to the dining room, she sees the 7 men that attacked her. Actually, I don't know if it's 7 because I think she killed Rolf.
Yeah.
So maybe 6 of them. All the men that attacked her had been staked to the wall, like crucifix style, with stakes through the hands so that they were like arms out to the sides and like back to the wall. So stakes through their hands and the chest. And for the Atlanteans, another stake through the head. So they are essentially like everybody in the keep, all the workers, are just like seeing these people nailed to the wall. Poppy is like looking at them. They're just like hung there for display, which really shows like how perverse Cass is.
Yeah.
Like, we like to think of him as a good guy, and he is. Like, in later, like, he is, like, quote unquote, the good guy. He's one of our heroes. He is messed up, though.
Yeah. Which, like, I can't complain about because I do love it.
Yeah.
That's mostly it. I love it in a book. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
But I just feel like Poppy's not ready for it. I think that's my biggest issue. I'm like, I feel like they're on different levels. Like, he is way too hardcore for where she is. Although I do think she killed a man she killed 2 men this week, probably. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're walking through the hall, and she sees Mr. Tooley, and he is up on the wall, and he is very dead. And she sort of... I don't want to say she feels bad, but she's sort of sympathizing with the fact that, like, they escaped only for him. Like, where's his wife and son? Like, you know, she was like, they escaped and now he's up there. Like,
what was the point of it all?
Yeah. Jericho is also up on the wall, but he's not dead yet. I don't know, like, where he's been staked, but he is still alive. And Castile says that he will kill him when he is ready. And now everyone else knows what will happen if they harm her or disobey him. I mean, sure. It's effective. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So they go to the dining room and sit. She is seated on his right, which she says is a place of honor. And Kieran sits next to her. So she's got a man on either side. But it's odd that he puts her, like, I don't know if maybe she's reading too much into it, therefore I'm reading too much into it. But, like, I think it's interesting that he puts her on the place of honor.
Yeah.
He sort of asks, like, if she's okay. Like, if she disagreed with what he did and if she's disturbed by it. And she sort of responds with that she's shocked by it. And she says she didn't expect it. But she says what disturbs her most is the fact that she doesn't feel bad at all that they're dead. Because she's like, these people cheered and laughed when she was bleeding out. Even though, like, she had never met most of them. And that they were, like, cheering and offering up other body parts to take from her. So, like, she says she doesn't feel sympathy for them at all.
Yeah.
And that's what disturbs her. And I sort of agree with her on that. Like, you should feel a sense of sympathy when you see people, like, killed in a really brutal fashion. And the fact that she doesn't, like, I would be concerned as well.
Yeah.
She also points out, though, that even though they were all assholes, they still deserve dignity in death. And he was like, even though they weren't going to give you dignity in death. And she says, no, they weren't. But that, which makes them wrong, but that doesn't make this right.
Yeah, which is kind of like what her whole thing with the cursed was. And, like, he even said he felt the same way. So, like, I get what she's saying for sure.
Yeah, so he then tells her their plans. They're leaving in the morning for Atlantia. And he drops the bomb that she is part Atlantean. And that he can tell by tasting her blood. So, she thought both of her parents were mortal. But I guess him and Kieran are like, well, maybe you're wrong. Like, maybe one of them was Atlantean. But she also says, like, well, that can't be true because my brother is now ascended. So, like, if he was part Atlantean, wouldn't that mean he wouldn't ascend? Mm-hmm. And they said, well, no, we're fairly confident he's ascended because we've had our eye on him. But they're also saying maybe he wasn't your full-blooded brother.
Which is such a bomb to drop on someone.
But, like, also, who else? Like,
yeah.
Who else would the father be or the mother be? Like,
is there a shapeshifter? I don't understand.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's fine. He also sort of insinuates maybe that that's why they wanted her as the maiden, to use her to create more ascended with her blood. And she's like, I don't have the equipment. And it was sort of like in reference to the teeth. Mm-hmm. And they're like, they don't need you to bite anybody. Like, they just need your blood. Like, they can just take it from you. So, this is why he thinks she was the maiden. Mm-hmm. With her Atlantean blood, she could become the new donor, we'll say, and create Ascended. Which is why her future is tied to the future of all the other Ascended. Kieran then asks, like, why are they going to Atlantia when his brother is held in the opposite direction. Like, if anything, this makes it them they have more knowledge about her. They're more power. Like, they know now that she's really like they really need her. And Cass then explains, "Did you know that in order for an Atlantean to marry, they can only do so on home soil, so that both halves can become whole?" And explains that they are going home to marry. Bum, bum, bum. So apparently he's not going to use her to barter anymore. He's going to marry her instead. Like, literally 20 minutes ago, he was going to barter her.
I don't understand.
I don't understand either. What makes it all worse is that's literally the end of the book.
Yeah.
That's the last line. We're going home to marry, princess, and that is it.
And I get, like, it's a shock to everybody, but I'm like, you should really tell a girl before you tell everyone else.
Yeah, he's just announced it to the whole room. Like, maybe ask her first. Instead of saying, nope, we are. Like, take me to dinner first. Jeez. I mean, he kind of did just take her to dinner, but still.
Stab me in the heart first, why don't you?
Yeah. Anyway, it was...
Yes.
I'm just...
flabbergasted.
Yes.
Also, we're going to need to read the second book soon, I guess, because that's some ending.
Yeah.
They really love the cliffhangers.
Yeah, they do really like the cliffhangers. And I'm not happy about it.
Mm-mm.
At all.
You're not happy about most cliffhangers, to be honest.
That's true. Anyway, this is it. We finished another book. The month of April is over.
It's true.
Only 2 more months of school.
Yay.
Yay.
It just means nothing to me, but I'm happy for you guys.
Thanks. Anyway, so I guess, what'd you think of the book?
I liked it. I liked it the first time I read it. I liked it this time. There's some things that, like tropes, that I just get annoyed with. Like him being a dick in the end and then not communicating with her. But I'm also like, I guess he's a prince. He's not used to having to explain himself and his plans. I know you can talk everything away, but anyway. I hope he stays just as evil for the whole series. That's what I gotta say. I really don't remember a lot about the second book, so I think I am gonna read it pretty soon.
Yeah, same.
What about you? What do you think?
I like it. I think the issue with when you read it again is you find things and maybe find some inconsistencies, or you find some things that maybe you didn't see in the first book. Like, there are just some things that maybe went under-explained, and then other things that were maybe over-explained that didn't need...
Yeah.
So, like, I like the idea and I like the story, and I do want to get the second book because I completely forget what happens in it. And I love the two of them together, and I think they're sort of the saving grace of the book.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to read the second one. I do like the book. I do like it and appreciate it.
Yeah.
So maybe actually a little bit more
than you thought you did.
I thought I did, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
It's hard because, like I said, I think the same thing happened with both of us. We read the first one, we read the second one, the third one took too long to come out, and then I forgot everything.
Yeah.
So I just couldn't connect what was happening when I was reading the third one. I was like, wait, who is this person? Wait, why is this happening?
Yeah. And it got really complex. Like, it's a complex story. And I was actually on, I was on the Reddit scrolling through things a lot of people agree that it, like, not taken away from people who love it, like, it's really good, but it gets, like, there are tiers and tiers and, like, complex storylines, like, that, you know, like, you just have to, you gotta pay attention to, I guess. I'll say. Like, if you're not paying attention, you might miss something and then be shit out of luck and be like, what? I don't get it.
Yeah, which I think is exactly what happened with me. So hopefully I'll get back into it now. Because I did really enjoy this one a lot.
But, like, I feel like now the problem is, so we're going to read the second one. Then we're going to gear up to get into the third one. Then we're going to read the fourth one. And then the same thing is going to happen. We're going to be like, shit, the fourth one's done. The fifth one, we got to wait till July. And then we're going to forget it all again.
And then the sixth
and then try and read ones. And then try and read the fifth one and stop. Because it's like, I don't remember.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's the way of the world.
Yeah. I guess that's what happens when you read a series.
It's true.
We will be doing the second book sooner rather than later, I'll say, on the podcast. We'll do it sometime this year. Yeah.
Because I do want to get into it, because this is a cliffhanger, and I forget most of it. I remember some things, and, like, the things I remember are just, like, little tidbits that I like, and I'm like, I think I liked it. I can't remember.
I feel like I remember the one big overarching idea, and that's all I got.
All I remember is miscommunication, so.
Yeah. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I like it.
Well, I guess that wraps it up for this week and this month.
Woo!
If you want to get in touch with us and share your thoughts on anything you heard in our episode, if you have any, like, theories or anything that you want to, like, let us in on, please. We love a good theory. Mm-hmm. Or if you have any book suggestions for us, anything you want to hear us discuss, you can email us at coffeeandcoread@gmail.com. And be sure to check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at coffeeandcoread.
So next week, we're doing a new book.
Yay!
So exciting. We're doing Neon Gods by Katie Robert. So we're going into another Persephone and Hades retelling. So we're super pumped about that because we both love the mythology and, like, the different takes on it. So we're going to start with chapters 1 to 7. So make sure you follow along. And if you're enjoying our chats, don't forget to follow, rate, and review wherever you find our content. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you on the next page.